Yeah, I don't know if anybody's on here right now, but I lost the stream for my other video, the one that was supposed to come up. I'm not sure what happened with it. So if anybody's on here, hopefully you'll be coming to it. I put a message on the other stream to try to find this one. Okay, so this one is going. I'm really sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I was having a hard time getting my camera to hook up. I don't know, whatever. If I'm not having technical problems, I'm not doing something right. So, let's see. All right. All right, so sorry about that, guys. So if you just logged on, I don't know what happened to my previous stream. So if you just logged on, I don't know what happened to my previous stream. So yeah, so I'm just resetting everything up right now, so I apologize for that. All right, so guys, this here. Thank you guys for joining me tonight, or this evening for me, this afternoon for some of you folks in the West. I know a lot of people watch from the UK, and I know this is really late for you guys, so I'm going to try to change the times I do some of these things so they aren't always late for. Let me move this camera a little bit. Oh, that's great. There we go. All right. A little bit better. All right, guys. So I didn't post a whole lot this past month because I was on a road trip for myself. I was from Tennessee, went back out west to California, spent some time there. I posted a couple of short videos talking about the trip, but I didn't really post any normal type videos during that same period of time. And believe it or not, I'm actually going on another road trip next week. So that isn't common for me to go on two weeks in a row, but this is a different one. My wife is going to be on vacation or on business in California, so I'm going to take our dog out there and visit California again. So it'll be pretty interesting to get back out there twice in the same month. But another announcement I wanted to make is that actually I have to check real quick when it is. I forgot the exact time. I'm going to be participating in a live GeoGuessr battle royal. It's going to be a 5-person battle royal between 5 different YouTube channels that are related to geography. And so we'll all be on the GeoGuessr. This is going to be Tuesday nights. We get the actual time. It's going to be it's going to be hosted by Mr. Beat. So I'm sure a lot of you folks are familiar with his channel. If you watch this one, you might know Mr. Beat. He'll be the one hosting that event. And we get the time again. It will be well, it's Tuesday. It was early. Okay, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is noon. I know it's a weird time on a weekday for, but Spaghetti Road is involved with this, and he's in Europe. Contiguous, I think, is part of this as well, and he's in Europe. So we want to have it at a time where some of the European streamers can get on this before it's, it's too late for them. But anyway, so those are the couple of things I wanted to announce. Also, look for another announcement video I'm going to put out next week about some stuff I'm going to be doing regarding this other stuff with this channel. So, but anyway, so I'm going to start looking at some of these comments now. And so I appreciate everybody for being here in chat. I love doing these live streams. They're so fun. They're just kind of a cool way to interact with everybody, because as the channel has gotten bigger, I can't answer all the comments anymore. I'm having a hard time keeping up with comments. So I like to do stuff like this to interact a little bit more. And all right, so I'm going to scoot back up a little bit, try to catch up. A lot of people have asked about my future road trip plans, and specifically to the Northeast. And so a lot of these questions are similar about this, future road trip plans. And someone asked about Rhode Island. August will be the big road trip for us when we go up to New England. I'm going to be visiting my brother in Delaware on the way up there, and then we'll be all throughout New England. We're specifically going to skip New York City. We've been there before, but this trip is more about seeing some of the places we haven't seen. So we'll be up all around New England, specifically Maine. We'll be spend the most time in. Probably the least amount of time in New Hampshire of all those. So that is going to be up in August. Why you always hating on Nebraska? Man, I just put a video out talking Nebraska up big time, Jacob. I like Nebraska a lot. It's one of my favorite Midwestern states. I love it. So, yeah, I think I always had too many negative things about Nebraska. Grand Island is a pretty nasty place, but thankfully most of the commenters from Nebraska said, yeah, you were right about that. John asked about the North Shore of Lake Superior. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. I can't see who that is though. But thank you very much. John, yeah, the North Shore of Lake Superior. Yeah, not this year. Next year, we're not quite sure what our big road trip's going to be, but I've never done the full cross Canada trip. So, we've been through Ontario and Quebec and stuff, but we haven't driven the full, Canada Highway 1 all the way across. So I would love to do that, but that's not this year. That might be a next year one. We got Kentucky in the house, Philly in the house, New Mexico in the house. That's always good. Yeah, thank you very much for the congratulations for the 100,000 subscribers. I mean, I just cannot believe that this channel has reached 100,000 subscribers. So, thank you guys so very much, because this channel is, I want it to be a community. So I just think it's cool. A lot of people have found this channel and enjoy it. So, hello from Central Kansas. Hello, Central Kansas. Call me Clip before YouTube. What did I do? I had a handful of random jobs. We moved to Chattanooga, did kind of random stuff, but I had a job where I was doing cave tour guides. So I was literally taking folks through a cave, and not like, Ruby Falls where you have a flashlight and point to the ceiling and say, hey, look at that. This is like you put a helmet on, knee pads, gloves. You're going to get pretty messy. You're going to squeeze through stuff I could just barely fit through. So that was a lot of fun job. But the place that ran it, they sold it to a different management company, and it ridiculous. So, yeah, that was what I was doing before. My real job before this was when I was doing emergency management. I was doing preparedness and response planning for natural disasters in South Carolina, and then later on in California. So, yeah, emergency management, natural disasters is kind of my background. I got into that from being that I studied climatology within geography. So I did a lot of hurricane research, and that's what kind of got me into that field through South Carolina. All right. Hello from East Minnesota. Minnesota is a state you don't think of normally east-west. You think of like northeast corner, but you don't think of I think of more north-south type state. Yes, my shirt is definitely biased against the Southern Hemisphere because the Southern Hemisphere is inferior. It's the inferior hemisphere. Hello from Davis, California. I like Davis a lot. It's the bicycle capital of the U.S. There's more cars or more bikes on the street than cars. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, people like this shirt. I like this shirt a lot. It's made out of a material where if I had a lighter, it would just go up like that. It's like that 70s disco material. But yeah, it's wonderfully hideous. I love it. Do I like New England? That's the only part of the country I have not extensively traveled in. So I'll be able to tell you, and I'll probably put out a video in September talking about New England. But as far as now, I can't say for sure. Argentina. There's always somebody from Argentina on here. I love it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why that is. That's pretty cool. Yeah, thank you guys very much. All the compliments, really cool. Pittsburgh, Ian's guys, greetings from the Faroe Islands. Now, how many YouTube streamers have somebody from the Faroe Islands on their stream? I don't think many do. All right. Another Faroe Islands? You kidding me? I have been to Disney World in Florida, Matthew. And okay, if you're from California and you've been to Disneyland, you've heard your whole life that the one in Florida is better, right? Because it's the newer one. It's bigger. It's better. It's got the big disco ball Epcot thing. But I've been to the one in Orange County a couple times. I've been to the one in Orlando. My wife went to graduate school at Central Florida, so we went to, while we were there, went to Disney World. Okay, if you're from California, keep in mind, Disney World in Orlando does not have the Tron rocket cycles. It's not that big of a deal. Does not have Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Can you be kidding me? There's no Indiana Jones ride at the Disney World in Florida. And there's no, you won't believe this, there's no Matterhorn. How could there be no Matterhorn at Disneyland? It's ridiculous. But the Florida one has all kinds of other stuff around it. But as far as the actual part with the rides, one in Florida is terrible. All right. Just missed you in West Wendover, Utah, AZ. It's hard to miss anybody in West Wendover. You sneeze, you drive right through it. Interesting town. I mean, it's so small, but it just exists so that people from Salt Lake can go and, gamble a little bit. Interesting live music. I was surprised they have so much entertainment stuff there that for a town so small. David, what do I do that allows me to do these road trips? I'll give you guys a word of advice for life. Get you a sugar mama. If you want to take time off for road trips, the keywords, sugar mama. But that's basically it. My wife is very successful at what she does, and I'm able to do jobs where I can take time off or just make YouTube videos. So I'm, very fortunate to be in that position. And yeah, that's how I'm able to do so much travel. Yes, Spaghetti Road will be on the stream on Tuesday. Mr. Beach will be hosting it. I'm not sure exactly the details of it. We're going to put something out probably tomorrow about all the specifics, but it's going to be Tuesday at 3 Eastern. Jake, you're moving in from California. Moving in from where? Moving to Tennessee? Well, the rest of your comments cool too, but I don't get into the controversial stuff on here. But yeah, if you're coming to Tennessee, welcome. A lot of folks are moving here. Tennessee's kind of become like this hipster place because it's probably one of the cheapest states to live in. So if you're looking to go cheap, it's just about the cheapest state. Thank you very much, Karina. I appreciate the super chat very much. North Dakota is the best Dakota. That's questionable. Maxwell, hello from Florida. You're going to school for geography. That's cool. What is my favorite Earth projection model? I like the old classic Robinson. So for as far as map projections go, a lot of folks have seen the Mercator one. The Mercator is the one where Greenland's always half the map and all the Arctic areas are huge, real distorted. It's more for old-timey ship navigation, but that's unfortunately the one you see the most. But I like the Robinson. It's got a little more of a curved edge to it, and it's just closer to reality. The ones that bother me, I don't know what they're called, like the kind where they're kind of separated, those drive me crazy. I hate those. I need it to be one consistent sheet, but I do like the Robinson, and there's one called the Equal Area, I think. this one here that I have on my wall thing, whoops. I'm not a huge fan of. I don't know. It's the map itself. The thing looks cool, but the projection of the map itself is not my favorite. But yeah, I like the more traditional styles, but not the Mercator traditional style. Some of the newer ones are kind of crazy. Steven, Moscow, Idaho, named number one city to raise a family. Thoughts on Moscow? My wife actually has a family there. A lot of her family's in Spokane and northern Idaho, so I'm pretty familiar with that area. Although I have to say, I don't know if it's Moscow or Moscow. It's just a nice little college town. It's I'd say it's comparable to, it's a small college town, like Stillwater, Oklahoma, Auburn, Alabama, Clemson, South Carolina. It's a, Ithaca, New York, that kind of a small town with a college. So it's very young, cool, way too cool for you, man, oriented, and kind of strange how it's way out there in Idaho, but it's literally right next to Pullman, Washington, across the state line. And that's where Washington State University is. So these are these two college towns in little tiny towns next to each other, but at the very ends of their respective states. So I'm not sure why they're like that, but that's a nice area. It gets real cold during the winter. All right. Trying to, Tom, thank you for the super chat. Favorite pinball tables? Well, I take the geography on here, but I will answer. I like Theater Magic. That's my favorite one. Circus Voltaire a lot too. But mostly I play, not online, but on my Nintendo Switch video games. The Wild West Rampage, I like that one too. All right. Alex, I've never been to Vancouver Island. However, I have been to the Pacific Northwest. Vancouver Island is not where Vancouver is. That's where Victoria is. So I would love to go up there. That's one of the top areas I want to road trip, but I haven't. So if we end up doing this cross-Canada trip next year, as we get to Vancouver, we'll come back down south on the West Coast. So maybe see it like that. All right. Eli, what do I think of Mississippi? I haven't talked too much about Mississippi. When I first started this channel, it was mostly about California and the South and not much else. So I spoke a lot about southern states in my earlier videos, which are terrible. So as the channel has grown and gotten a little bit better, I haven't talked as much about the southern states because they were some of the ones I did talk about before. But anyway, Mississippi, I'm not going to lie, it's not my favorite southern state. I think it struggles. I think some of the biggest issues for Mississippi are that all of the other southern states are scenically pretty. They all have, nice forests or woods or mountains or swamps or something. Mississippi is just kind of, she ain't the prettiest girl at the dance. And you also have a lot of poverty in there. And it's not the spot a lot of companies are moving to. So it's just kind of been treading water for a while. Now it's losing population. Honestly, I think Mississippi should just legalize marijuana, just go all Sin City. The states around you are never going to legalize this. You do it. You put something up in Tunica right across the border from Mississippi, something just across the border from Louisiana, from New Orleans. And that's the kind of thing that I think Mississippi will have to do, because you're not going to get big high-tech companies or medical companies or things like that moving there. You might get I think there's a Toyota assembly plant there, but that's about the best thing they got. MW, what do I think of Oakland? Oakland is Oakland, California. Now, there's a place that's changed a lot. I'm not very familiar with Brooklyn, but from what I understand, they're very similar in that they were both pretty rough, around the edges, high crime, and then gentrification came in, and Oakland became kind of super hipster. I mean, I kind of like it. It's not horrible, but it's not it's not the best example of a great city in California by any stretch. Drew, you thinking of moving to Greenville, South Carolina because of me? Well, it's a great place. That's a lot of pressure on me. It is a nice town. I don't know of any other metro area of over 1 million people where the main city is so small. There's only like 60,000 people in all of Metro Greenville. So it's like a collection of a bunch of really small towns, but they're so close and they add up to The overall population of over 1 million. All right. You ever come to Carlsbad? I've been to both Carlsbad, New York, or New Mexico, and California. Reading from Asheville. I love Asheville. British Columbia. I've never been to Bellingham, Washington. All right. Johnny, do I match my music when I road trip? No, I have just a, actually right here. Well, actually it's not right there. It's a 500 and something gigabyte thumb drive, and I just go off of that. Yeah, it's music is really important on road trips. So yeah, that's a very important part for me. So I make sure I have a ton of stuff with me. But for my collection is about 2,000 gigs. So to get just my favorite stuff on 500 is kind of tough. But Jacob, I have been down to the Rio Grande Valley. Interesting place. You got, it's subtropical, very nice, warm all year. There's over 1 million people between Cameron and Hidalgo counties down there, which is crazy because it's just growing a lot. But I mentioned in another video where I'm kind of surprised it hasn't grown more. It's kind of like South Florida down there, but South Florida from the whole coast is just one city after another. But South Texas isn't quite like that. I think people were saying it's a huge ranch. It's almost like one big property, but that area is nice. Right along the Mexican border. A lot of folks think that you get close to the Mexican border, that's going to get dangerous towns or high crime. And those are most the safest cities in the country, the ones along the Mexican border. I don't know where I got this shirt from. A lot of people ask. I don't know where it came from. It was a gift. Terminator. I spent a lot of time in Ohio. I'd go through Dayton a lot, but I rarely stop there. I've stopped there before, but I stop in Cincinnati a lot because it's halfway between here and Detroit that I visit every year. Don't stop. It's been a while since I stopped in Dayton. It's okay. It's not my favorite big city in that size range, though. Steam powered from Hemet out in the desert. Starting to get to that time of year where the temperatures are real nice out there, huh, near Riverside. William, where in the U.S. do you think will have the largest property value increase over the next decade? Man, that's tough. People seem to be moving south. I mean, not the entire South. I mentioned that in the video where people think everyone's moving to the South in general, but they're not moving to the entire South. But people are moving to the Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee, for the most part, in terms of the South. And I think that's where you're going to have the highest increase because I don't think the expensive parts of the U.S. are as overpriced as much as the Southeast is underpriced. I think most of it's undervalued here. Wages are so low. Things are not cheap because they're cheap. They're cheap because people don't have as money to spend. So I think things are going to go up a lot. Our house value, where we live, that's a special house here, has gone up 100 and almost twice. It's almost doubled in value in the past 6 years. So not doubled. Almost 1.5 times value in just 6 years. That's crazy. Stephen Goudreau, I'll be in Providence in August, and I'm looking forward to it because I put Providence on my list of towns, some of the worst state capitals. I got beaten up in the comments for it. So I'm going to give it a full second shake. Conroe, Texas, Boise, Idaho, Riley. I'm going to ban you for saying that. No, I hate the Knights. They're probably my least favorite team in all of sports. Like just in sports in general, I hate them so much. Kieran, what is my favorite city in Colorado? I don't know. I kind of, if you've been there, you're probably like, this guy's crazy. I kind of like Grand Junction. It's rough. It's dirty. I like it. But a lot of the places that I like are kind of like that. They're, a little beat up. I like Denver, but big cities for me are places to visit, not to live. It would drive me crazy, but I do like Denver as far as big cities go. I think it's one of the better big cities. Stoic, thank you very much for the super chat. Ireland's late over there. Thank you for staying up this late with me. I'll do other streams where I start earlier in the day, so it's not so late for people overseas. And also, guys, I'm sorry, I can't get to all these questions. There's a ton of questions on it. I'm going to try to answer as many as I can, but I can't get to all of them. Somebody asked about best place to move for a family of 6. You don't hear me talking about family stuff and kid stuff on here much at all because we don't have kids. So that's tough. If you have 6 kids, I'd imagine you'd want some space. So the more rural you get, the more space you're going to be able to get for less money. But I can't say for sure. And plus, even if I had kids and I wanted to talk about stuff with kids, I couldn't even do videos talking about best theme parks or stuff, because then I would have to label this channel as made for kids, and YouTube has gotten really weird about stuff with content for children over the past year or so. It's really weird. So I was going to do a whole video series like geography for kids kind of stuff, and YouTube I'd have to basically demonetize the channel, which kind of sucks. Kel Everett 100. Your house in North Carolina has gone up more in value last year than the previous 15. That sounds about right. North Carolina is one of those spots where you're going to expect to see that. It doesn't surprise us. That's one of the 5 or so states where I would say, that's where you're going to see big increases. Jaden, yes, Birmingham is kind of a financial center for the Southeast. Regions is a pretty big bank, BBVA. So that's the main thing going on in Birmingham, which is good because they lost, the city is known as the Iron City. It's kind of like the Pittsburgh of the South. If you follow college football, when Auburn plays Alabama, it's called the Iron Bowl, and they have all this iron and steel history, but it's gone away just like it did in the Northeast. And so financial stuff has been what's picked up a lot of the slack in Birmingham. Unfortunately, though, it hasn't been enough to make up for all of it, but the Crafter Boy, does San Diego live up to the America's Finest City nickname? I like San Diego a lot. I'll actually be there next week. I think it gets that. It's so laid back, and it doesn't feel big. The people there are just a little more chilled out. I think the climate has a lot to do with it. People just aren't as freaking out over how hot or cold it is. But I mean, fine, the city's gonna always be someone's personal preference. I like it a lot. It's a safe city. The weather's always nice. People are cool. A lot of folks think it's going to be just like Los Angeles, but smaller. But it's not. It's a much different place. I'd say it feels more like a Northern California city with Southern California climate. It's just a little more chill, I think. Matthew, Boone, North Carolina. No, I do not have any I don't have anything really. Discord. I did all the reserved Facebook, Instagram, Discord, TikTok, Pinterest, whatever kind of anything it is. I registered Geography King so that nobody else could do it, but I don't actually use any of them. But I think I probably will start doing more stuff like that. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Things to do with typical social media stuff I haven't really gotten really into too much. Maybe. I don't know. Bob Ross is on here. I did actually think about doing, he asked about doing a video where I fixed gerrymandered in states, but that took a long time to do that video. Gerrymandering is it's not just the sleazy part of it, but just the actual numbers, the science in it. It takes a lot. So I will not be doing a video doing all of it, all the states, but thankfully most of the states aren't that bad. There's about 10 states that are really, really bad. So I addressed half of those in a previous video, and I'll probably do the other half in a future one. Kyle's looking to relocate from South Florida. Well, plentiful jobs and decent cost of living. Well, I think you're asking for what everybody in America is asking for right now. I mean, I know a lot of people that are looking for jobs, different parts of the country, and it's the same story pretty much everywhere you go. I mean, there are jobs, but they're not good ones, and there are apartments, but they're too expensive. So I think we're kind of in the middle of a shuffling right now, maybe like a market correction. I don't know the economy type stuff like that, but this feels like things are out of whack right now. I don't know, but again, I'm not an economist or housing expert, but this thing's just dumb. But to get back to your question, Kyle, I don't know. I mean, I think right now, I think a lot of the places that have the best wages to cost of living ratio right now is the Midwest. And a lot of folks don't want to move to the Midwest because it gets so cold. They're moving from there. But the Midwest is the best bang for your buck right now. And most of the states in the Midwest are relatively low tax, low cost of living. So, but no beaches, no mountains, gets cold. So it's going to be a preference of what you want in terms of physical geography. Yeah, some more stories in here. Jason, house value up 70% in 4 years. And that's how it's been. It's crazy. Joshua, where inside the U.S. would I most like to visit? I've never been to Alaska or Hawaii, so those are going to be my first two choices of places I haven't been. So I do want to see those first. I haven't been to the Boundary Waters canoe area in northern Minnesota. I'd love to go there a lot too. I love to go canoeing, so a lot of the places I haven't been to would be high on my list. Chef, what's my favorite city in the U.S.? My favorite big city is San Francisco. I mean, it would drive me crazy to live there. It's just crazy, but I love going there. I love walking around. There's no city in the country better for walking, and I just love seeing just all the different neighborhoods change so quickly. I like Chicago for the same reason. Great city for walking. Yeah, I mean, I like most of the big cities as far as places to visit, but not. I'm too small town of a guy to want to live there. Oh, you know what? Yeah, somebody asked why there's no slow mode. I set it up on the other stream. It didn't work, so this isn't on slow mode. So calm down, people. Yeah, Steve, March Madness, a lot of fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I'll probably do something similar next year. I'm not sure what. I still have some ideas of what to do. Yeah, a lot of folks from Providence on the stream tonight, so that's good. Yeah, I did, like I said before, I took some heat for saying some negative things about Providence, and people didn't appreciate that too much. But it has improved, and I was just recently in Little Rock, and to be perfectly honest, if I redid that video about worst capitals, Providence would not be on it, and Little Rock was awful. I was surprised that Little Rock had declined as much as it did in the past handful of years. I was surprised to see the level of homelessness in Little Rock. It was shocking. How many countries have I been to? Not many. I've never been to the Eastern Hemisphere of the U.S. or the world. I've never been to the Southern Hemisphere. So the only other countries I've been to have been Canada, Mexico, and a few countries in the Caribbean. So, yeah, I'm okay with road tripping by myself. I have a lot of free time. I can do stuff within the U.S. by myself. I've had the time to travel overseas, but it would have to be solo, and I don't know. I'd rather go when my wife can go with me, but she doesn't have as much free time as I do. So we'll see. But I do want to certainly get overseas. All right. Patrick, the most underrated national park. That's tough. I think Congaree National Park in South Carolina is underappreciated. Really easy to get to. It's just off a road near Columbia. Nice scenery. Theodore Roosevelt National Park in western North Dakota is really nice. People think of North Dakota, they're not thinking about national parks, but it's a real nice spot. We've been there several times. It's really peaceful. I like that one a lot, and no one goes there at all. Hussey's Huddle, thank you very much. Hamilton, Ontario. I have been to Hamilton, and I drive from Detroit to Toronto every now and then, and I went through Hamilton. I stopped somewhere to pull over to make a call, and I was like surrounded by 3 or 4 foam factories. They're like foam. I was like, is Hamilton the foam capital of the world? Why are all these foam places? But Hamilton, big city on Canadian standards. It's about the size of Omaha, Tulsa-ish size, but it's probably the 8th or 9th biggest city in Canada. It's an okay place. It was not somewhere I'm going to spend a week vacation, but it's somewhere I'll stop to eat on the way to Toronto. All right, one of my favorite sports stadiums. Yeah, I like some of the architecture of some of the stadiums. I like the ones that are newer, but they kind of are meant to look old. I'm really biased, I know, but I like the San Francisco Giants baseball stadium. And even though I'm a Giants fan, I do think most people do rank that one really high. You know what one is terrible? The new Braves one. They spent all this money for a new stadium they didn't need. It's worse than the old one. Yes, I will do more population growth trend videos, especially with how things have changed in the past year. I mean, it's with the pandemic. I mean, a lot of the videos I put out in 2018 and 2019 are just completely they're outdated already, just because shift in population. But I will update some of those ones about population growth. I have not been to the San Juan Islands off of Washington coast. I would love to. There's basically nowhere in the U.S. I wouldn't want to go, but I've not been there. Traveling with Rip Camden Yards. Yeah, that one in Baltimore was one that kind of started the whole new to make it look old. My thoughts on Tim Hortons. I'm not the kind of person that's going to care that much. I don't drink coffee, and donuts. I mean, I like donuts, but I just think they're okay. My wife likes the coffee. She drinks coffee a lot. We were flying. I think it was Detroit. I think Detroit Airport has a Tim Hortons, and it was about ready to shut down. She was like running full speed through the concourse to get to the Tim Hortons before it closed. Sue, my most favorite city in Texas. I like El Paso. Everybody hates El Paso, but I like it because it's the only city in the state that's the dry climate. It's in the western part of the state. It's much more like New Mexico or Arizona than it is the rest of Texas. It's really far away. It's almost like a different place. But in terms of the more, I guess, regular, the more populated parts of the state, I think I'm in the big minority here that I prefer San Antonio to Austin. I think I'm like probably the only person that would ever say that, but I do like San Antonio for the kind of the history and culture, a little more of the Southwestern Mexican feel, as opposed to the parts of the state that are a little more Southern, kind of like Arkansas or Louisiana. Best airline, Nick. We usually fly Delta, which is fortunate because it's in Atlanta. It's really easy for us to use. We've always had good success with them, and I hate having to fly using Charlotte too as an American. Uses Charlotte, so that's an inconvenient hub geographically. Favorite city in Montana. Montana's kind of like Wyoming. It's not known for its town so much, known more for its scenery. But I like Missoula. I like the areas around Glacier National Park, Kalispell. A little more, the eastern part of Montana is pretty rough. You want some rugged west, check out eastern Montana. Best regional fast food joint, Tom, let me tell you, it's not Runza in Nebraska. It's not Brahms in Oklahoma. Let me see. It's not Whataburger in Texas. Those, I like Skyline Chili. People give me crap for that, but I like it a lot. Of course, you can't even call Shake Shack regional anymore. They're going national. So I would say Shake Shack before they went national, but In-N-Out Burger's starting to go national too. So you can't even really call that regional anymore. Opinions on Charlotte two-tone. Yeah, I've been there quite a bit. When I was living in Columbia, we would go up there a lot. I would drive up there just to go to this place called the Map Shop. It's just literally called the Map Shop. Just wall maps, atlases, books, just all kinds of globes, and just a geography nerds heaven. Really cool store. About 15 years ago, Charlotte was really boring. It was a very boring big city. There wasn't much going on there. It was just the banks. Bank of America's headquartered there. Wachovia used to be, what's it called? It's Wells Fargo now, but it was Wachovia. So all these big banks there. And it wasn't too exciting, but then other stuff started to move there. And it's been booming a lot. And, I like it, but like most other big cities, I like to visit it, but it's too big for me to want to live in. Muddy Rivers likes Gold Star better. I like them both. I'm such a sucker for it. Kraus, favorite city in Oklahoma. I kind of liked that little town, but Enid, did about 50,000 people. I kind of liked it. It was a pleasant surprise because most towns in that size range in the Great Plains in the Midwest are usually kind of like Grand Island, Nebraska, or like Decatur, Illinois, or places in that size range. Yeah, Enid's all right. Oklahoma City is okay. And Tulsa I thought was better than it was when I'd been there before. So I liked Tulsa. I hated it 20 years ago. I thought that's pretty cool. I didn't mind it too much. So Oklahoma, I like it. I like Oklahoma and Nebraska, but not Kansas. I don't know why that is so much, but I like the bread, but not the meat in the sandwich, I guess. All right. Yeah, a lot of folks asking about Vancouver. Yeah, I haven't spent that much time there, so I don't really have a lot of huge opinions on it because if I haven't talked a lot about a place on videos, there's a good chance I haven't spent enough time there to really give a good impression of it. And that's one where I really need to spend more time there. So two-wheeled adventure, what do I think of van life? It's not for me. I think it's great that folks do that. It's because for me, that's the kind of thing that sounds romantic on paper. It looks cool to watch other people's videos, but I can see it, for me at least, I can see the honeymoon ending soon on that. I can see it getting kind of old. Because if I'm road tripping and if I'm doing a mostly camping road trip, even after 5 days in a row of camping, I want to have a night in a motel just to get a real shower and just to kind of get a real bed and stuff. So I don't know if I could do van life. I could do it maybe temporarily, but yeah, it's not for me so much. August, thank you very much for the super chat. Yeah, I have been to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I go there quite a bit. I'll be there maybe not this year, but certainly next year, if not this year. I love Pictured Rocks. I've camped at Hiawatha National Forest and I was at Tequamanon Falls. Real nice spot there. So yeah, I like going up to that bridge to get from the Lower Peninsula to the Upper Peninsula. It's one of the sketchiest bridges I've driven on, but Oscar, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy the content. That makes me happy. Although I have to say, I'm embarrassed to say, I don't know that currency. Is that Polish? Based on your name and PLN, I'm going to guess that's Polish, but I don't know for sure. But either way, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. I have not been to the coast of New Hampshire, Andrew, but I will be there in a couple of months for the first time. Not sure where we're going to stop. Probably Portsmouth. Is Portsmouth the one that's the most historic? I think there's Exeter and Durham that are near the coast, but we'll be in that part of the state, just off of I-95. We probably won't venture much off into the rest of the state. Excuse me. Family-friendly must-see in Arizona. Arizona is mostly going to be national park kind of travel. So it's going to depend on what your kids, excuse me. So it depends on what I don't know where this is coming from. Depends on what your kids are into or how young they are. I like the Meteor Crater. It seems like a tourist trap because you got these really stupid looking billboards that makes it look really cheesy, but I think it's actually really cool. It's a geologic wonder, and for little kids to see something that big, you kind of explain to them this a giant rock that big landed on the earth. So, but any of the national parks are going to be cool. Tombstone in the far south of the state near the Mexico border is got some of the Old West shootouts. They can be kind of touristy and cheesy. But yeah, it's a fun spot down there too for kids. Thanks. Got some water here, so lovely wife brings the water. But yeah, I mean, a lot of cool stuff in Arizona. Lake Havasu, if it's not spring break season, is great for families. If it's spring break season, don't take your kids there. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff there. If they're older, get on a trail. A lot of cool stuff to see out in the deserts. Outer Banks. I love the Outer Banks a lot. I've mentioned this before in the video. I think they're the best beaches on the East Coast. So as far as the actual sand, the actual beaches, I know Florida has some wonderful beaches, but I mean, you can get some true seclusion in the Outer Banks because it's basically one strip that goes south, real thin, and it's a one-way road. So if you keep driving south, you're going to end up where there's almost nobody there because the only way to connect it to the mainland is to a ferry. And most people aren't using the ferry. So yeah, Outer Banks, great beaches, really wide expanses of sand. You won't see many folks out there, but you can go to the ones that are more party oriented if you want to see where people hang out. Johnny, what's my experience has been in Arizona, in Phoenix. I mentioned this in a recent video. I'm not a huge fan of Phoenix for how big it is. I just don't think you get much out of it because I see Phoenix as an area where the city's 1.5 million. Maricopa County has 4 million. The metro area has 5 million. So you're talking about an area that's, the size of Denver or Seattle, and it's just you're putting up with the same stuff you're putting up with some of the big cities, but some of the cities are the same size. But you're only getting as much as you get if you live in, say, Salt Lake, which is half the size, or San Diego, which is much smaller, or look at Vegas, it's half the size of Phoenix. Phoenix really. Someone made the comment in that video where they're kind of punching below their weight, and that's kind of what they're doing. Jing Ting, thank you very much for the super chat. You guys love New Mexico, and how come it's not growing fast? Yeah, I mean, I love New Mexico also, as a lot of folks know. It's growing, but not growing fast. I think it's kind of enigmatic, really. I don't know exactly why. It seems like a place that would be booming in population. It seems like, they're surrounded by Arizona, Texas, Colorado. They're surrounded by states that are just growing a lot, but they're not. The weather's nice. It's cheap to live there. Taxes are relatively low. I mean, I don't know. It has a bad reputation. as the state does. You could watch 10 YouTube videos on the worst states, and 9 of them are going to have New Mexico in that list, and mine will be the best state. But yeah, I'm not sure why. There aren't a whole lot of new jobs opening up in Albuquerque, but I don't see why a company wouldn't want to be there any less than, say, Tucson, about the same size. So, yeah, I don't know why folks aren't moving there, but I'm glad they're not. So maybe if we move there, it won't be as crowded. Minneapolis Dan, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Vishant, would you agree that each of the major cities in Texas has its own unique identity? So Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, El Paso, Houston. I mean, they certainly do. I think with Texas, all those cities have grown mostly within the past 30 years. I mean, Austin wasn't that big 30 years ago. I mean, Dallas and Houston have been big for a long time, but they weren't, the 5th and 6th biggest in the country. So most of the growth there has been much more recent. So it doesn't have a lot of there's not the cool old historic area of Dallas or Fort Worth, but they do each have their own little, their vibe. Houston feels definitely more international than the other ones. I think it has more of an international flair to it. Man, I don't know what's wrong with my chest. Austin is much more, it's college town, state government, the music scene, the party scene. That's and now it's high tech too. So San Antonio has been, the big Hispanic capital of the Southwest for, back to the 1800s and stuff. And it's got the old historic neighborhoods. Even though San Antonio and Austin are so close to each other, they're very different. So, because San Antonio is kind of like the northeastern end of, Mexico, and Austin's like the southwestern end of the South. So they're close, but they kind of at the edge of their own little region. Brian, you are correct. I have not checked out the goth scene in Phoenix. I've been to a goth bar in Atlanta, and it was interesting. Yeah, New Mexico does have bad schools. It's not known for its schools, and it's a poor state. But look where I live, Tennessee, Chattanooga. People are moving here like crazy. Chattanooga is known for having horrible schools. I don't think that's holding people back from moving places or bad schools. They keep moving here. The South in general has some of the worst schools, and that's where it's growing a lot. I 360. Well, I will be in Maine in 2 months, so I'll let you know. I will put out something about Maine for sure, because I'm really excited about going there, exploring it in depth. John Helmstadter, would I move back to Monterey if money and circle taxes were no object? Yeah, I like Monterey a lot. And actually, my wife and I, the situation we're in, we would actually be better off financially in California. We're in the minority, I think, on that. But based on what, our income streams, it might cost us, say, $30,000 a year more to live in California, but we'd make $40,000 a year more type thing. So for us personally, it would work out. So the reason why we're not in Monterey isn't because we couldn't afford it. But I would like to move back. It's an old town, old in terms of age of people. It's very, very old. It'll be interesting to see how that city goes, because there's not many young folks moving there. And, the old folks, when they get old, who's going to buy the property when they die? So it's really expensive. But most of the people that live there have lived there a long time. They bought their house a long time ago when they weren't that expensive. Yeah, user 3937. I wonder how much of an impact Breaking Bad did have on New Mexico in reality, because, obviously it's fiction, but, people often take things too seriously. Larsy, come down to Huntsville, buy you a drink. What's that place? Is Heaven and Ale? Is that what it's called? Where it's got the pinball machines in that room? Yeah, I know that place. Matt Aarons, thank you very much for the super chat. You're in California, worried about the fires. How far east do I need to go? You can go west to the beach. I mean, you could be in plenty parts of California and not be at a wildfire risk. I mean, where I grew up, where my parents live, there's no wildfire risk there. It's cheap. But, excuse me. But once you get east of the Rockies, I mean, you're going to be, relatively safe from a lot of fire danger. You can get big prairie grass fires, but the biggest wildfire concern in the east is right around where I live. I mean, a few years ago, Gatlinburg, Tennessee, it was a very popular tourist destination, and the downtown, it burned in a fire. So very, very sad. But yeah, I mean, there are parts of California I would love to live in, but yeah, I couldn't live in some of those areas where you're at such a huge fire risk. But as long as you're not on those slopes or in those areas with the wind funnels through the canyons and all that dry brush, I mean, you can put yourself out of harm's way in terms of wildfire. You can be up near Barstow, nothing to burn out there but the sand and rock. Third account, if I didn't live in the USA, where would I live? I haven't traveled enough to say for sure, but just on our experience in the Caribbean, I'd move there. I loved it down there, all the places we've been, all the islands we've been to. People there are just super chill, laid back. I like it a lot. But could I live there forever? I don't know. Canada I could do, but probably it would have to be the coast of BC. Everywhere else is way too cold. New Zealand I could probably do. I've never been there, but that's Australia. New Zealand's probably the closest you're going to get to American lifestyle, I guess, outside of North America. I don't know. Yeah, Gardner, Montana. That's where we stayed, and that place was nice. Everyone stays in West Yellowstone when they go to Yellowstone. But Gardner, Montana, at the north entrance was just a nice little town. Just like 2 bars, good stuff. Yeah, good time. Nico, yeah, Atlanta. I talk about Atlanta quite a bit on this channel because it's one of the cities I'm the most familiar with. So I'm going to do very shortly, actually, a full video just on Atlanta. Where I'm going to be down there filming stuff in person and stuff. So I like Atlanta a lot. I like being 2 hours from there. I think it's one of the best things about Chattanooga is not just the stuff that's right here in town, the outdoor stuff, but Nashville and Atlanta, both 2 hours. It's nice to have 2 really fun, exciting cities 2 hours away that you can visit, but not, have to live in. JSL, I in terms of things that are highly deep in detail, it's going to be the U.S. and Canada because I don't know enough detail about a lot of foreign countries to say, big, my impressions or my firsthand experiences. Kraus, what are my thoughts on Des Moines? I like Des Moines. It's I've been there a few times. It's more metropolitan, cosmopolitan than you might expect. It's all right. Downtown feels a little bigger than you would think. The state capital is gorgeous up there on the hill. It's one of the best looking state capitals in the country. But it's not not exciting, but it's also not super boring either. I'd give it a 5. It's average, maybe 6. But it's not my favorite, but it's all right. The creepiest travel experience. Open Dojo. My wife and I, we were at this bar. We were visiting Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky, and we went into this bar in middle of nowhere. This wasn't even in a town, like a bar and just like on a side road. And it's like a wooden shack, dirt parking lot, bunch of cars out in front of it, like 15, 20 cars parked out in front of it. It was called Paul's, Paul', and it was written on the outside in those kind of like plastic tubes with the lights in them, and it was strung up so Paul's was written out in cursive in that tubing. So anyway, we go into this place, and I kid you not, we walk in the door, and it's like straight up the record skipping at like an old movie. I mean, everybody stops and stares at us like that. We're like, oh wow, we're in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. But the place was weird. There's a pool table in there. There's a little kid, probably 8 years old, at the pool table hustling. There's this dude in the back corner, like in the corner of the bar, in a Barca-lounger facing the corner. He's wearing a bathrobe, watching a black and white TV that's in the corner of the bar. I'm like, what is this? And then the where you ordered was a glass case, and there was like kind of like a jewelry case, and there was a register on top. And they're like, you know, what are you doing here? Like, oh, we want to get a couple of drinks. And they're like, this here is a dry county. We're like, oh, okay. And then there was some hippie beads blocking off the next room, and you could hear a bunch of music in there. You could hear people living it up, just partying, whooping and hollering. And like, all right, we'll go there. All these people are hanging out there singing karaoke. And as soon as we start to go into the beads, the guy's like, you can't go in there. What is this? So this place is basically, I mean, a place you can go to party and drink in a dry county, and they were worried about cops and folks. But it was just kind of a weird experience to be in this place and just be stared at. Like, yeah, I mean, that was a good time to be white. Let me tell you, it was creepy. Caribbean cruise advice. We never cruise, so I don't know anything about cruising in terms of advice. So yeah, I can't help you on that one. Sorry. I just saw a question about it. Lost it. Oh, I lost where I was on the list. Okay. All right. Yeah, Y2K baby, Lincoln, another one of those towns in Nebraska I like. So, you know, I put out a recent video about Nebraska. It didn't stop in Lincoln this past time, but I've been there a few times, and I like it. Good town. You get a lot out of it for a town that's only about 300,000 people. You know, you get the same stuff that people in, say, you know, just Des Moines a few minutes ago talking about. You know, Lincoln's half the size of Des Moines, but offers everything that Des Moines does with fewer crowds and less traffic. Brendan, where would you go on a road trip starting near Chicago? No matter where you start on a road trip, I always recommend just drive as far as you possibly can that first day. So if you're in Chicago, drive 10 hours in any direction. Don't even bother about stopping anywhere, because that way the first day of your trip you're already way away from home, and you're immediately seeing things that are far away from where you're at. So I mean, 10 hours from Chicago, you can go west. You'll be in Nebraska somewhere. East, you can probably get to almost New York City in 10 hours. But I would say just drive as much as you can in any direction. But for starting in Chicago, or really anywhere in the middle of the country, start going in the direction you've been least. So if you've been to DC, New York, Florida, go west. Or if you've been to Yellowstone and California, go east. So but I wouldn't recommend seeing anything that's close to where you live on a road trip, because you can see that at some other time. Tallahassee has the best Capitol building. That's a little debatable. Andrew, is Cuyahoga Valley National Park worth visiting? I think it is. I think it's real nice. I think it's either Cuyahoga or Cuyahoga. I'm not sure, but it's a national park. It's right in between Cleveland and Akron. So Cleveland and Akron is basically one giant metro area. So you got Cleveland, about 3 million people here, and Akron, a little farther down, but right in the middle of this metro area is the national park, and there's some great wooded areas, waterfalls, hiking trails. It's not what you'd expect to find in the middle of the Rust Belt, but it is a nice park, and I'm glad they protected it, because if it wasn't set aside as a national park, it would probably be all factories and subdivisions by now. I call beverages, like soda pop beverages in general, I just call them all Cokes. So like in the South, you go to a restaurant, you order a Coke. What kind? Dr. Pepper. Up north, they'll say pop. But yeah, I'm definitely just a Coke. I like some Coke. All right. Andrew, thank you very much for the super chat. Solo road tripping Alabama on the way to Florida. Cool. Now you're okay. If you're on I-10, you're only going to be in Alabama for a short stretch, but yeah, Florida Panhandle is a pretty interesting drive where you're obviously just going a long strip, but you're in Florida the entire time. But Florida north-south doesn't go very far from the Gulf, and once you get to that central time zone portion of the Florida Panhandle, I mean, you're in Alabama. You might have a comma FL after the town name, but you're in Alabama. Yeah, Georgia Caver. Wakulla Springs is, a lot of great caves down there. I'm not sure if you've been caving down there. I don't do any water caving. And yeah, all those caves down there have histoplasmosis. So I'm not messing around with that. I have some fungal issues with my lungs, so I have to avoid caves with histoplasmosis. Like you get a lot of the warmer caves down near the Georgia-Florida border. Don't assume affiliation. Richmond. I haven't been to Richmond in a while. That's going to be one of my stops on my road trip in August from here to New England. So I can't say for sure. I will say 17 years ago, it was a dump, but that was a long time ago. And everything I've heard about Richmond has been it's improved. It's been gentrified like so many places have. So, based on what I saw, again, 17 years ago, Richmond was a kind of town that I think gentrification could have been good for. I know when I might be in the minority, but I think when it's old buildings, old factories, old things are not being used, being repurposed, I think that's good. I think when it's houses people are living in that are being fixed up and price valued, I think that's when gentrification is bad. But from what I remember, at least, if Richmond did it right, then it should be better. But again, we'll see. It's been 17 years. Haven't been there in a while. Charles Sheen, where in the U.S. can you still find authentic hippies? There's a lot, let me tell you. So you want to find some authentic hippies, you want to start with Santa Cruz, California. And if you can turn on all kinds of places and look at the stereotypes of California and all the things that people think it's like that. Thank you very much, Saigar, for the super chat. I'll get to your question in a second. And Charlie as well. Thank you very much. I'll get to your question in a second. But Santa Cruz, plenty of hippies. For a while, it's not that way anymore because marijuana is legal, but for a while, you would get a bigger ticket for smoking a cigarette than smoking a joint on the street in Santa Cruz. So the bigger fine. But yeah, it's a pretty weird place. It's Asheville, North Carolina is another kind of hippie town where you'll find some authentic hippies, but you also have Asheville's got some of those like fake, like burnout kind of hippies that aren't, they try to act hippie, but they're just kind of burnouts. But I will say this. I think the world needs more hippies. Man, they're all old, but the thing is, a lot of the hippies kids are now the hipsters, the ones that were, used to be wearing the skinny jeans and the handlebar mustaches. I'm not sure what the fashion is today, but yeah, the hippies gave birth to hipsters. I think we need more hippies. Austin used to be very hippie. All the folks complain about, Californians are ruining Austin. Like Austin was always a bunch of hippies and weirdos and musicians way before the past few years. All right, so let me get to these super chats. Charlie, fellow Gamecock, right on. Go Cox. One of the best day trips from Columbia. Man, I did that so much. When I first moved to Columbia, I hadn't been to the east or the southeast at all. So on weekends, I would just drive to random places, little tiny counties, and I visited all 46 counties, have pictures of all the courthouses, and most of them are pretty old historic. So a lot of great stuff to see on the side roads. But and a lot of folks from South Carolina don't go to Savannah because we got Charleston, we don't need Savannah, but Savannah is really cool. It's different than Charleston. Okefenokee Swamp is also somewhere that's really close that nobody goes to, but I think it's a lot of fun in terms of day trips. And if you want to go to a road game, or like go to Athens, Georgia, whenever USC is playing at Georgia in some kind of sport, it's a lot of fun. Wilmington, North Carolina is really cool too. So yeah, a lot of great stuff within a good short trip from there. Grant Hughes, thank you very much for the super chat. I'll get to your question in just a second. Saigar, thoughts on New Jersey, especially rural northwestern New Jersey. I haven't been to northwestern New Jersey. I know it's the part of the state where you got mountains, I guess you can call them. I think it's even a ski resort, but I'm not familiar with that part of the state. Yeah, so I can't say too much. I've been to the New York City suburbs, up the Jersey Shore, Princeton, Trenton, that area, but that's actually the one part of the state that I'm not really familiar with. But I mean, for as small as New Jersey is, it's the most densely populated state. You got 9 million people in a tiny state. There is still a part that is rural. So the northwestern and some of the south central parts of the state are pretty rural. But I haven't spent much time there to say much about it. All right, Grant Hughes, if I ever go to China, you recommend visiting Yunnan? Yeah, honestly, I don't know as much about China as I should know. I was playing an online geography game, and you had to name all the Chinese provinces. I'm not going to tell you how bad I did. I barely hit 50%. It was pretty bad. But so I don't even know where Yunnan province is. I think it's in the south. But yeah, I would love to go to China. There's almost nowhere I wouldn't love to go. You want to send me on a plane to anywhere? Yeah, I'll go. I'll go to Sudan. I don't care. I want to go anywhere. So China isn't the top of my list, but yeah, I absolutely want to go there someday. Danny says they think the new people in Austin aren't hippie enough, actually, which, I mean, the first time I went to Austin, I was like, this is way more hippie than anything in California. Dan, well, I'm sorry to help you in your plight, but thank you very much for the super chat. Andrew, thank you very much as well. When you come to Portland, try the River House. I think I don't know if that was your comment, but I saw somebody else recommend that, so I'm going to have to keep that in mind. Ashby, thank you very much. I appreciate the super chat. Let me see, GCR and some numbers. I like Charleston more than Savannah as a place to visit. I prefer Savannah to live in. Hilton Head, honestly, I was never really into Hilton Head. To me, it seemed a little too artificial, a little too perfectly manicured golf course. People riding around the town in golf carts. It was just all new. And you have this old historic part of the South with all these old cities, not just Charleston and Savannah, but also Georgetown and Beaufort and some of the other ones, Brunswick. So to see Hilton Head, this new kind of all this kind of, I don't know. But Charleston I like a lot, and Savannah I like a lot too. John B., thank you very much. For sports, I'm all Northern California team. I don't really watch sports that much anymore, honestly. But San Jose Sharks, San Francisco Giants, Sacramento Kings. But I'm not a huge fan of any of them, really. I used to be a much bigger fan than I am anymore. Joshua, I do play Sporkle. I'm going to probably stream it very shortly, probably within the next few weeks. Joe Smittle from Cleveland. Hello, Cleveland. You never heard that one before, right? It depends on the vehicle I road trip in. It depends on who's going and if my dog's with me. So we have a Subaru that we'll use for trips that involve camping. I have a sports car, little Nissan Z that I'll take if I'm just going by myself or just me and my dog. But really depends on whether or not camping is involved and whether or not we'll be bringing a lot of stuff. Like you can't fit much in my sports car. Eric's Variety Channel, what's going on, man? Rock City, yeah, I've been to Rock City. I probably lived in Chattanooga for 10 years before I went there, but that's pretty cool. As far as the tourist traps in Chattanooga, it's definitely better than Ruby Falls. Ruby Falls it's a tourist trap. I mean, Rock City, I guess technically is too, but it's better. Mountain Dew, thank you very much. MW360, best major north-south interstate for a road trip. Wow. It really depends on what you want to see, because 95 will, of course, go through much more cities. You go through Boston, Providence, Hartford, New York, Philly, DC. And then once you get south of Raleigh, I-85 becomes the one that's more populated. But I-5, you go through big cities as well, but it's going to be more scenery. Well, it's not really I-5. I-5 is kind of boring. I think 95 is probably the better for the overall. If you're going to go north-south, but I think US 101, the one that follows the West Coast, will be better than I-5. A lot of folks asking, what's my day job? I don't have one. This is it. I do this, and I'm married. Those are my jobs. So, yeah, like I was saying at the beginning of this, I'm in a fortunate position. I can travel and make these YouTube videos and not have to do a day job, which is nice because I like doing this. Okay, Joe, thank you very much. I-95 does not go through Hartford, it goes through New Haven. So close enough. Connecticut's so small. Come on, man. All right. I have not been to Banff National Park. I would love to go there. We were actually going to go there last year, pandemic, but didn't happen. But that trip is the one that became the main trip this year. So I'm not sure if we're going to do that trip we had planned for Banff last year, but if we do the cross-country road trip of Canada, we would certainly include that. So, Harrison Jordan, you're going to go west for a road trip. Backup plan in the case there's a wildfire. Not really. I mean, if you're going to be road tripping in the summer or fall in the West, just keep track of those fire danger things. The reports, you can get the websites, the updates of the fire danger, and just avoid it. I mean, it's hard you don't know what the trouble is going to be. I mean, you might know there's a fire, say, in place X you're going to, but it might be in 3 days. But in 3 days, that fire might be worse somewhere else. So you got to really be on top of it if you're going to be road tripping, especially back roads in the West, especially in the summer and fall, and especially this year. It was expected to be a really, really bad wildfire year. I mean, 2020 was the worst wildfire year ever, and then 2018 before that. So it seemed like each year is the worst wildfire year. It's getting worse. Certainly be careful. And I've been road tripping before, and you're in the woods and you start to smell smoke, and you're like, all right, let's get the heck out of here. But yeah, you do want to have a backup plan. The beach is a great backup plan for wildfire. Ever been to Great Falls National Park? I have never heard of it. All right. Let me see if I can get the name of this male former. All right. Anyway, thank you very much. I've been following the recent news on UFOs. I saw a headline, something like the government officially says there's no alien. I don't know. I mean, I'm not big on alien conspiracy theories, but something did happen in Roswell, 1944, whatever year it was. I mean, something sketchy happened there. So, but as far as that, I don't pay that attention to it. And some of those kitschy touristy areas like Rachel, Nevada, or Roswell, New Mexico, you got the signs that say population 200, humans, aliens, who knows? I mean, it's kind of meant to be touristy, but I'm not a big believer, I guess you can say. Yankee Tie, thank you very much. Well, thank you. See what I can get with that. Andrew, I've not been to Galena or Fulton, Illinois. I'm not sure where Fulton is. I know where Galena is. I've driven through it, but yeah, those are both pretty small. I'm not familiar with them. Ever been to Black Canyon of the Gunnison? I will be there in a couple of weeks. That's one of the parts of my next road trip. So I've never been there. I've driven the road that kind of goes as a US 50 that kind of goes between Montrose and Gunnison, the towns, but I haven't stopped in the national park itself. So I will be doing it in a very short period of time. Yeah, I might do a video where I rank national parks depending on different types of things you might want to see. Some are better for shorter trips or for backpacking, and some are better for just what your different interests are. This is a username. My most disappointing road trip city stop. Man. It's tough to say. I was a little disappointed with Jacksonville, Florida, the first time I went there. I guess I was young and I was expecting a little more, Florida party scene, but didn't quite get that there. It's not a horrible place, but actually, what place is really bad? Wichita Falls, Texas. That place is pretty awful. Yeah, that's the worst place we've been to. Hawaii versus Mexico for a tropical trip. They're very different. I mean, about the only thing that's going to be the same is it'll be warm during the winter, but they're way different, so different. I mean, I couldn't even begin to say recommendations. It all just depends on what is the most important thing for you. Obviously, you don't need a passport to go to Hawaii. Mark, thank you very much. Area 51. Hope you're doing well there. Hope you're not strapped down. Winnipeg or Fairbanks, which is a colder city? That's a really good question. Fairbanks, I'm sure, gets colder in the winter. But in terms of overall average temperature for the year, it's got to be warmer in Winnipeg. I don't know. They don't sound like places I want to be in January, either one of them. Charlie, thank you very much. That's really cool. Yeah, being in the hospital sucks. I've been that, and it really sucks. So I'm glad I was able to help you out a little bit. But as far as your question goes, I can't answer that one until August. As far as right now, I would say my favorite New England state is probably Maine, but I haven't scoured the region. So in 2 months, I'll know for sure what my favorite New England state is. Howard. Oh no, sorry, Howard. Hawklord. Have I ever seen Monument Rocks or Little Jerusalem in Western Kansas? No, I have not. And Western Kansas is somewhere I'm going to be on that trip next week. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where I'm going to be in Kansas. I'll be going east-west across Colorado, southern portion of the state, and then into Kansas. So across the state, but not along I-70, but not along US 50 either. So I'm going to check those out. Yeah, Michael, I'll be doing a lot of stuff on Nashville too, because as I start doing more videos on just one city, I'm going to start with the ones closest to me, which are Atlanta and Nashville. Troy, thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. That's really cool. You guys are really cool. I mean, every time I do this, I'm just so humbled by people that are just generous and enjoying the content. That makes me feel really good because, I'm just doing what I love to do. So it just makes me happy that other people enjoy it. KP, I'm not sure if we're going to Cape Cod. The details of our trip aren't specific yet. We're going to Boston for sure, but I'm not sure. We'll see. I'd like to, but I don't know. What did I not like about Wichita Falls? I just remember it was a weekday and the downtown streets were so empty. It was almost like it was Sunday at 5 a.m. There was nobody around. The roads were just really potholed. It just looked really, really dumpy. It just gave a really bad first impression. So, I mean, maybe it was just a bad first impression, but it was. My wife and I were both like, "What is this place?" But that was a good 10 years ago. So maybe it's gotten better. Jeffrey, yes, the U.S.-Mexico border is very safe on the U.S. side. You're not going to have any issues. And like I was saying earlier on, I mean, a lot of the safest cities in the U.S. are the ones along the U.S. border. San Diego and El Paso are two of the safest big cities in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, it's a big difference. It's a small border, but it's a big border in terms of economics. So you're very safe on the U.S. side, and even if you're in the touristy part of the Mexican side, you're safe too. But Cloudland Canyon State Park, really cool spot near Chattanooga, half an hour southwest. It's in the northwestern corner of Georgia. Beautiful spot. It's like national park type scenery in the state park. It's a small state park, but. All right, Mountain Dew, best and worst things about DC area. I mean, I like DC. I like just how it's obviously it's the only state or it's the only nation's capital. So the things it has there are unique, and it has this very different flavor. And so when you go to a city that's based on high tech or based on ag or based on manufacturing, they'll have a different flavor. But because DC is the only one that's based on federal government, it has a totally unique feel. It's not like, I mean, you're walking around town and you can just sense the shadiness that's going on. You just know those two dudes talking over there, talking about something sketchy. So it's that kind of, there's always something going on in DC. But the thing I hate about it is it's just the traffic. The traffic is horrible. I mean, it's in that top of the pyramid for just worst traffic cities. Yeah, it's spread out very far because you can't have high rises in DC itself. It just ends up being more spread out because you don't have a lot of high-rise condos like you have in most other big cities. Wyatt Olberg, thank you very much. Is it possible to travel by road through all 48 contiguous states? Yeah, it is. You would have to either start or end with Maine, but there are a bunch of ways you can do it. But yeah, you can definitely do it. All right. Hey, Croker, thank you very much. Thoughts on Owens Valley, Death Valley? I was just there. That was part of my trip. And so I drove up 395 up the Eastern Sierra. And it's really cool because the Owens Valley is a flat area just east of the Sierra. But it's the east side of the Sierra is so steep that it goes from flat to the peak of Mount Whitney in just a mile as the crow flies. So it's just really cool to see just how steep the side of that mountain is, the tallest mountain in the contiguous U.S. Really cool drive. Death Valley, you can drive through Death Valley to do the route that I did. Instead of going on the state highways, you can just drive through the park. Really cool drive. Really, I mean, great place to visit. I mean, Death Valley, you kind of have to go in the spring or fall. It's way too hot in summer, too cold in winter, but beautiful spot. But yeah, that whole Eastern California area is just, no one knows about it. That's the only thing people know about it is Mammoth Mountain is a ski resort. But other than that, there's little tiny towns. There's a county in Eastern California. The whole county is 1,300 people. The whole Eastern California, the 3 counties combined, are under 20,000 people. An area about the size of, I don't know, that's about the size of Massachusetts. Not bigger than that even. About the size of Vermont and New Hampshire combined, and there's about 20,000 people there. So very, very off the beaten path part of the state. Very pretty scenery. Yeah, okay. All right, and Andrew Vukic, Eastern Nevada was another spot that I was just at recently, and yeah, I mean, Eastern Nevada, I mean, all of Nevada, anything that's not Vegas or the Reno Tahoe area is just nothing in Nevada. And so I was going to post this, I didn't, but I have the dash cam, and it was like over 30 minutes of driving and not a single car passing in the opposite direction. And I was going to post it something like, meanwhile in Nevada type thing. And just, but it was just literally going to be half an hour of just desolate driving with no car. So I didn't post it. But anyway, Eastern Nevada, there's nobody there. Ely, ELY, the biggest town, might as well be New York City for that part of the state because there's nobody there. Great Basin National Park is a beautiful spot. No one goes there because it is, so far from anything. So great area. So if you're from a city, you really want to get away. You want to just get away from people. You don't care if you're at a national park. Check out Central and Eastern Nevada. There's nothing like that in the contiguous U.S. in terms of just nothing. Yeah, Death Valley in August will be bad. Death Valley in August sounds a lot like driving through with your air conditioning on. That's what I would be doing in August in Death Valley. Alejandro, what year do I think Texas will pass California in population? I don't think it will. I think it would take serious circumstances because the amount of time it would take, you can't predict what will happen in 20 years. I think Texas is being smart. They're attracting high-tech companies, but excuse me, it's because, well, that's not because, but they're going to lose a lot of oil jobs in the next 10 to 20 years. And I'm a big car enthusiast. I follow the car industry. Everything is going all electric, everything. And so places that are dependent on oil are going to really need to think about something else. Alaska's going to be in some trouble, I think. I'm worried about Alaska. So I don't think Texas population growth is going to continue at the rate it's been at for the past few years. But we'll see. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how oil is going to go, but just following the car industry, I don't see the Texas population growth going up as much as it's been because it's been high tech and oil both at the same time for the past 10 years or so. I think the oil part's going to drop off relatively soon. We'll still need plenty of oil, don't get me wrong, but it'll be nothing like how it is now when literally every European car is going to be electric. I just saw something today that Hyundai and Kia are going to be 100% electric by 2030. I mean, all the European ones by 2030. The all new F-150, they have an electric F-150. I mean, it's going to be all electric pretty soon. So that's why I wouldn't think Texas is going to keep growing at the same rate it's going now. Do I think Illinois will keep losing population? I mean, I would think that anywhere, if it loses population enough, at some point it's going to become so cheap that people would move back. Right? I don't know. I don't understand the economics of all that stuff, but I think the biggest issues with Illinois are that I think it's the property taxes. I think people complain about the taxes in Illinois, but I think it's mainly the property taxes because income taxes aren't that bad in Illinois. But I mean, those property taxes are brutal. I mean, so, but I'm not sure. People still love Chicago. The Chicago metro area is still gaining. Chicago itself is losing, but people love Chicago. I don't blame them. But it's hard to say. West Virginia's been declining for 20 years, more than that, and it hasn't picked up. So we'll see. I don't know of any state where the people are more self-loathing than Illinois. It's like, man, you can talk bad about Illinois, and the people that live there are like, well, he ain't lying. Other states, people get defensive about it, but Illinois, yeah, they take it. Mark Bauer, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. I didn't really get into geography. I think I was just wired that way. I just started reading maps and I don't know. I just was interested in that from the time I was a little kid. So I was never, there wasn't like a single moment where I was introduced to something and now I was into maps. I just gravitated toward that. I was a little kid, like 4 or 5 years old, just reading maps. So it wasn't traveling didn't make my love of geography. My love of geography is why I wanted to travel and see so much stuff. Chattanooga in terms of tech industry. It's not a tech town. It's not a town for a lot of high tech jobs. Chattanooga is a town that people move to, but maybe not for jobs. It's not a great job market. People like the town. People are willing to take maybe a crappier job if it means they can live here. There was a Volkswagen automotive assembly plant that opened up about 10 years ago. There's been nothing big in the town since then. So, but yeah, I don't see the city really trying to attract tech. The wages here aren't high enough. So a high tech company needs to offer high wages, and Chattanooga, $10 an hour is considered a good job in Chattanooga. So it's tough to get a high tech to move here. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I mean, there's nothing really computer, medical. So being close to Nashville and Atlanta has its positives, being that, we can go there really easily, have fun, but it has its negatives too, because a lot of stuff would just rather be in those two cities as opposed to being here. Evan, thank you very much for the super chat. Blue Wave. I mean, Montana is a beautiful state. You go to any of the western states, it's going to be very nice scenery. It's 1 million people total for the state, and it's huge. And the biggest town is 100,000 people, 130,000 people. So it's all small towns. Most of the towns are pretty rough. The scenery is beautiful, though. So it's a nice place, but it's not, it's not the same type of mountain life as, say, Colorado or Oregon. Each western state's a little bit different, even though they all have the scenery in the mountains. John B. My favorite place in Western New York. I like Buffalo. I mean, you say that and people are like, what is this guy's problem? But, there's certain towns that are, they're kind of, they've seen better days, but I still think you have a nice personality. So I like Buffalo. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a huge fan of Rochester. It's okay. I just think it's 1 million people in that metro area. It just feels so small. But I like Buffalo and, Niagara Falls, just from the sheer, just the science power of it, the hydrology, the geology of it, just fantastic. Hey, Bryce Walter, thank you very much for the super chat and congratulations. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. It's just whenever people say nice things, it just makes me feel so good. So I'm just glad that, you know, things are going well for you, and I really do appreciate the support. Um, Dre, thoughts on New River Gorge as a national park? My first thought is, why wasn't it a national park 50 years ago? It should have been a national park all this time. Beautiful spot. I have friends that go there every year for the bridge day thing. They jump off the bridge. They rappel down there. Big party. So I'm glad it's a national park. I think West Virginia should have been doing this kind of stuff a long time ago. They could have still had coal while still pushing tourism, parks, protected stuff. But they didn't do that. So now some of the state has been kind of ruined by the industry that you don't even need. A lot of that coal stuff is not even being used anymore. It's just a destroyed mountain that could have been something that's still being used in terms of a park or something. But so hopefully this is a turning point for West Virginia, because it's kind of like Detroit. They didn't want to do anything other than automotive for so many years, and it just fell apart. And just in the past 10 years, they're kind of like, oh, let's diversify finally. So hopefully West Virginia can realize that diversification is not a bad word, and maybe the national park will be a good start for it. It should be a revenue generator, but we'll see. I also get the impression that a lot of the folks that live around that area might not be too happy about all the travelers. So we'll see how that goes. Pat McClung, thank you very much for the super chat. Favorite city in the Northwest? I like Bend. I mean, Bend is somewhere that we thought about moving to. It's real small. It's very similar to Chattanooga or Asheville or this kind of outdoors oriented town, but it's really small. It's only like 100,000 people, but it has as much as Chattanooga does. I like the Oregon coast a lot too. So I think overall I prefer Oregon as a state, but I like them both. I mean, those are two of my higher up favorite states. Brian Sheeler, I'm sorry. I missed it. I do apologize. I'll try to find it. Blue Wave, thank you very much. I mean, very, very generous. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, skiing, great place to go skiing too. I don't ski. I'd be dead if I skied. I'd have no coordination to be able to point that out. Drew, yeah, I mean, YouTube is basically what I do now. If I wasn't married, I would have to do something else. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing this. There's some revenue with the channel. I'm not, I don't have the big ads you can't skip or the Patreon or Amazon affiliates kind of stuff. But there is some revenue coming in with the ads. So that is basically what I do. But yeah, again, if I weren't married, I'd be doing a real job. I don't know about Baltimore. I can see Baltimore turning a corner and gaining population again, but I think Baltimore still, I don't know, it's rough. I can see it going kind of like Detroit, where it slowly starts to improve, but I don't see it improving in the immediate future. I think it's still years away. I don't know. It's not one of the cities I'm the most terribly familiar with. Wait, what's that say? If your wife was a state, which one would she be? She's short. A short state. A small state. I think South Carolina, where she's from, is a good state for her. She's sweet and small. That's what South Carolina is like. Yes, the Texas Triangle is that's the big metro area. You got Dallas, Fort Worth, Galveston Bay, San Antonio, Austin. You got 20 million people or so between those three metros, and it's a lot of folks. That's the big population growth. There really isn't any space on I-35 between San Antonio and Fort Worth. It goes straight from San Antonio to New Braunfels to Kyle to San Marcos to Austin to Round Rock to Kylie to Waco, and there's like hardly any space in Fort Worth. So I-45 between Dallas and Houston, there's a lot of space still. But I mean, check back in 20 years, there might not be that much space. But yeah, that's one of the biggest population growth areas right now. There's another one similar to that in the south. If you kind of draw a triangle between Nashville, Atlanta, and Raleigh, which encompasses Charlotte, that's another triangle of just massive population growth. All right. Go back and I missed the super chat. I'm sorry. Yeah, I hate doing that. All right. Yeah, Southwestern Florida is another area that's booming right now. I'm not sure what's driving the growth down there, because for a while that was mostly retirees and that kind of snowbird kind of folks. But that's like 1 million people down there between Fort Myers and Naples, Cape Coral, that whole area. And I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of like Phoenix, Vegas. I'm not a big fan of it. Perfect grid patterns, everything's just perfectly manicured. It's just, I don't know. It's not my style, but a lot of folks moving there. Nice weather. You don't have to worry about the cold. No, I've never been a professor or a teacher of any type. I did do a lot of presentations when I was working for emergency management, but never teacher. Yeah, the Boundary Waters, I would love to go there. I'd love to spend a week there, just going on a back trail. Just any kind of trail where you have to portage or portage your canoe is going to be one where you're going to see very few people on there, because most people don't want to carry their canoes. And Andre, population growth in Wyoming due to online job? I don't think so. Wyoming, the problem with Wyoming, not really, I guess, a problem so much, but they don't want to let you grow. They're like, you can go to a town in Wyoming and then they're not going to issue a building permit. They don't want people to move there. So there's only like 2 counties in the state that have any kind of growth, and so they don't really want people moving there. So I don't think it's going to be a big center for online jobs. I think Chattanooga might be. This area makes perfect sense for people that, like, if you were a YouTuber, like if you're a big YouTuber that has a big channel, that's your career. This would be a great place to live, because the houses are cheap and there's no state income tax. So you're making your money off YouTube, which is based on New York, California dollars, but you're living in Tennessee. So if I were a career YouTuber kind of person, this would be a great place to live. People have been talking about this, the past year. People are going to move to Chattanooga, but because of the tax, but also we have the best internet in the world. So that's one thing that's really cool about living here, is the internet is just so fast, no problems, and that's why a lot of work from home people are considering Chattanooga. The most I've ever driven on one day, I don't know. I don't go too crazy. The older I get, the less I drive in a day. Usually, like the first day of a road trip, I'll drive 10 to 12 hours. But then subsequent days, I won't go any more than 6 to 7 hours. I'll have to get a lot out of the way up front. But I could do 12 hours a day pretty easily, but probably not 3 or 4 days in a row. Joe, do I usually stay at the same places out west? It depends. Most of it depends on if people are with me, because all of my trips are by myself, because I can just take more time off. But if I have friends with me or my wife, or people are with me, we'll have different accommodating situations. If we're camping, but there are certain places, like in the West, because there aren't as many towns, there's a lot more open space. I do know which towns are a little better for staying in and which ones have a little more. I have a few more restaurants that we're eating at, or kind of thing. But it has more to do with just how I'm doing that day on terms of driving, not so much I'm planning to stay at, whatever particular town. Well, David, my wife, she's taller than 4'10", so she is not quite that small. Gurgaron, I don't know a whole lot about Punjabi culture. There were quite a few Punjabi that live in my hometown, but I don't know a lot about like the things that are going on in there. I know that a lot of disputed land up there, and just from playing GeoGuessr, there's a lot of stuff because it's it's right where India and Pakistan border. So, and from the game standpoint, it's often kind of difficult to figure out which country you're in. But I'm not familiar enough with the area to say too much one way or the other on that. I'm trying to find a super chat that I missed. I probably will not do like the state geographic profile videos. I probably will not do videos on those if it's a state that I've talked about a lot in other videos. So I'm not going to do a California one. I'm not going to do South Carolina one. So the states I've talked about a lot through other videos, I won't. Terry, do I think California will bounce back? I don't think it's down. I think it's media perception more than anything. I was just out there. I'm like, according to the media, the whole state's on fire. Everyone's homeless. And I'm like, man, this is better than Chattanooga. But yeah, I think the problem right now is, I don't think the problem is California as much as it is Los Angeles. I think LA is where you're seeing the most population decline. Even though the Bay Area is as expensive, you're not seeing the decline there because the wages are a lot higher there. LA, the wages are high, but not high enough to keep up with I just think there are too many mega rich people that live in California, and because of the climate, and that's what drives the cost up. And people aren't going to pay $3 million to live in a house in Iowa, but millions will pay that much for a house along the coast in California. So that's what drives the cost up. So people like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan can complain all they want, but they are the problem. They're the ones that have driven the cost up. So I'm not too worried about it. I think the difference between California and other states that might be losing population are that California has more things inherently good. So, I mean, LA is the busiest port in the country. So our biggest overseas trade partner is China. So that port is always going to be important. The Oakland port up near San Francisco is also, so with, the military, California is the most important strategic state other than Virginia. So a lot of the Pacific coast, the naval fleet and the top Air Force bases are all there. So from a strategic standpoint, California has inherent things going for it. So, for example, if it got think if everywhere in the U.S. cost the exact same house cost, same wages, same taxes, everything was the exact same, there'd be way more than 40 million in California. So the high cost is really the only thing keeping it from being like crazy crowded. I mean, I don't know. I think it'll be fine. I think if coastal Californians would look at interior part of the state, they realize that it's not a statewide problem, that some of the costs and taxes, because taxes are not that high in other parts of the state. I mean, if you live in LA, Bay Area, your taxes are high, but if you live in Fresno, Bakersfield, Redding, your taxes aren't high at all. At least not any more than most other states. Shannon, thank you very much for the super chat. Now, Illinois, on the other hand, I think could be a little bit more trouble because, I mean, this not as Chicago is great, but there isn't as much inherent. I don't know. Yeah, each state's got different issues. West Virginia is the only one that's been down for a long time. Give me you're tired. I don't think people are leaving cities en masse like the media are saying. I just think there's so much that is just not true. Like there was something I saw. It was some article from the New York Times, of course, talking about the California exodus, and it was like, wait a minute, all the stuff they were talking about was like, it was just like hyperbole and stuff. So, I mean, I don't see it. I mean, I think the suburbs are growing so much that the inner ring suburbs of most cities are basically the same as the big city anyway. So you can beat the suburbs of today, not quite the same as the suburbs 40 years ago, because it's not, you know, we're technically in the suburbs in Chattanooga, but we're in the town. I mean, it's not like we're way out in the exurbs. I think that's some little bit of a difference between what the term suburbs means from what it used to be. But, you know, each city's doing differently. Some cities are losing population with the suburbs gaining, but I don't think it's going to happen on a nationwide scale en masse. I just don't see it. But we're in a weird time because, you know, who knows how things will change because of what happened in the past year. A lot of shuffling right now, but I'm not sure how much that shuffling is permanent. I think it's still sifting through. We'll find out in the next year, I think. Yeah, I don't, Nicholas, I don't usually do road tripping in the summer. This one I'm doing next month is rare. It's usually spring or fall that we go, less cars on the road. But this next week is more just on, because my wife's going to be doing business in California. So basically dead. Thank you very much. Now, Las Vegas, from an economic standpoint, the biggest issue with them is Vegas and Nevada in general is always the first state to go into a recession and the last state to come out. So they were the first state that really get beat up with COVID, and they'll be one of the last that's going to fully recover because it's not just tourism, it's gambling tourism. So your whole economy is based on that. But they are starting to bring in new stuff. There's new companies coming into Vegas and Reno. The new Tesla plant, or not the car plant, but the battery plant in Reno is huge. A couple of high-tech companies in Vegas, Zappos is there. But I think most of the growth in Las Vegas has been people that sold their house in LA and moved there, bought a house, and don't need to have a great job. Because if you look at the job market in Vegas, it's not really that good. We're hospitality town, so those type of jobs often don't pay the best. But for people that have sold their house and can buy a house in Vegas with cash, then that's a great situation for them. But for me, like I was saying about Fort Myers and Southwestern Florida, or in a video I mentioned recently, I just, that kind of lack of personality cities are not my favorite. But I was surprised in the comments on that video I made about Vegas that I was saying I don't like how it's kind of soulless. A lot of folks are saying they do like to go out to the clubs and hit the casinos. And so, I wasn't sure how many locals that live there actually go down to the strip and party. And but if that's your thing, then Vegas is great. But I was just under the impression that most folks live there didn't do that. Yeah, I mean, Nevada has, Charles, plenty of place to grow. There's nothing but space in Nevada. So I think the bigger issue there is water. I mean, California, of course, going to have the biggest water issues, the most people, but I mean, Nevada doesn't have many people, but there's no water there, and Arizona's growing, and they're all taking off the Colorado River, and the poor Colorado River is like, leave me alone, man. I got nothing left. So, yeah, that's the biggest. It hasn't stopped growth. I mean, this water shortage is something that you're not going to hear too much in the media because it's frightening, and it's. I think if people knew how dire some of the water situation was in places, it'd be a bigger deal because all the growth in the Southwest, including Texas, which is in the Southwest, but all that growth is really depleting the groundwater. It's going to be a problem. I mean, out here in Tennessee, it rains every day. It's flooding water. There's nothing but water out here. But once you get the western half of the U.S., that's the biggest issue. And I mean, Michigan should just build canals and sell their water to the Southwest. The economy would never falter again. Yeah, Frank, I mean, Los Angeles is crazy. I don't see how these prices are sustainable. I mean, because I think what's happened is house prices out there weren't crazy expensive 15 years ago. It was like post-recession build is when the cost of living or the cost of housing went up like crazy. But a lot of folks in California have owned their home for more than 15 years back when it wasn't expensive. And so they're paying relatively low property taxes on stuff. But if you've tried to move there in the past 10, 15 years, I don't see how enough people can make it. So I think a lot of the folks that live there a lot of folks that have moved from there are folks that have either already owned their homes and were able to sell it, move somewhere else, or people that were renting and couldn't afford to own something and say, all right, we're going to move somewhere we can afford to buy. But there has to be a lot of people that have owned their home for a while because with the numbers just don't match. The salaries aren't high enough to match up the wages down there. So a lot of homeowners must have owned their home for a while. And in California, because of the weird property tax laws, if you've owned your home for a long time, you don't really pay much in property taxes. So if you lived in the same house for 20 years in a part of the state that isn't along the coast, you have some of the lowest cost of living, some of the lower cost of living in the country. So as someone that's not from the coast of California, I just wish people would talk more about the state as a whole, as opposed to just, the same pictures of the same homeless camp in LA and San Francisco. It's like, all right, come on, guys. But anyway, yeah, it's expensive. It's crazy. But I just don't think I think these prices are over. I think it's going to crash. I mean, I've mentioned this before. I'm not a housing expert. I'm not an economist, but man, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be buying a house right now. I think it's too dicey. I just don't trust these prices that they're real. Kind of like in 06, 07, everyone thought their house was worth $500,000 and it crashed. And, oh, look, it's only worth 180. But I think that's kind of like where we're at now. The economists are all saying, no, that's not the case. Well, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're the experts, but math's not my thing. I'm going to answer a few more questions. It's been about 2 hours. I love doing this, but I can't do it too long. Tim, you want to live in New Mexico? Alamogordo, a good place to retire? I don't know. I'm trying to think. Alamogordo is near White Sands. It's an okay town. It's kind of a military town. It's cheap. It's definitely cheap. So if you like that kind of sunny, that typical retire in the heat kind of thing, that's a great spot. I would stay away from southeastern New Mexico, which is more of the oil and natural gas area. It's a little more Wild Westish, I guess. But anywhere in New Mexico that's not Santa Fe or Taos is going to be pretty cheap. Lee Paco, ghost towns and abandoned places. I don't search them out, but when I was driving across the Oklahoma Panhandle a few weeks ago, there's a lot of little ghost towns there. So I was kind of fascinated with these. We think of ghost towns as like these old West areas, the old saloon, the dirt street, but there are lots of recent ghost towns like again, in the Oklahoma Panhandle, these towns that was nothing but 20 boarded houses. So it's pretty interesting, but I don't seek those places out. I am 6 feet tall, exactly. Shan, I'm not sure where the Wichita Mountains are in Oklahoma. I've camped in the southeastern portion of the state near McAllister and the Curtin Wilderness area, but I'm not sure if that's what the name of that mountain range is. Yes, I am familiar with geography now. I watch a lot of his videos, but not all of them. Janice, I study geography, and I specialize in climatology, so weather type stuff, and that's what got me into emergency management and natural disaster research. HG Man 3, prospects of the old Rust Belt cities. 10 years ago, I would have said not good, but I think a lot of them are starting to do better. I'm not going to say most of them are doing better, but a lot of them are. I was pleasantly surprised with southeastern Pennsylvania. That was one of the most hard-hit areas. It's still pretty rough, man. It's still Allentown, Bethlehem, Reading, York, Lancashire. It's all pretty rough stuff, but I thought it would be a lot worse based on where it was going. So Lancaster has been growing a lot. I'm not sure what is going on in Lancaster, but it's been booming a little bit. So the Ohio Rust Belt towns, I mean, I'd say they're doing a little bit worse. Youngstown's bad. Flint is bad, real bad. I mean, I like Cleveland, but I don't see it making progress. But I don't know. I think they're doing better than I thought they would. They're recovering a little bit better, but they have a long way to go. Do I believe in the Sasquatch? I don't believe in the Sasquatch. I know the Sasquatch exists. I'm open-minded. I'm not a conspiracy theory on stuff, but I'm kind of open-minded about Sasquatch just based on how remote the interior West is. There's possibility there could be a species of something living there that we don't know about. But, Brandon Williams, thank you very much. Well, you say, do I like Cincinnati, Dayton? I like Cincinnati. I'm okay on Dayton, but I think Cincinnati is a great city. I like the old river towns like Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, St. Louis, because they're old and because everything is based on walking and horses. The neighborhoods are real small, so Cincinnati you can walk from one neighborhood to the next, and it's really cool. It feels like a small town, but it's a big city, and I like it. I know a lot of folks. It's dingy to a lot of folks, but I like it. I like little dingy cities sometimes. Orlando and Phoenix, maybe a little bit too clean sometimes. My favorite California place name? I don't know. There's a place not too far from where I grew up. It's called Pumpkin Center. It's kind of a dumb name, but yeah, Keytron, the Ogallala Aquifer. Those are two words you're not going to hear in the media because it would freak people out. But yeah, there's something's going to have to happen. It's going to end up having to be ocean desalinization. I mean, it's unlimited water. It's expensive. It's complicated, but it has to be done. Joe, yes, Columbus. I've propped up Columbus on this channel a couple times. It's got a decent job market. It's doing a good job of kind of like anchoring the Ohio economy right now. A lot of folks are moving there. It's as of now, it's still kind of cheap, but it's going up like everywhere else. So it's one of those things like get it now. So I can see Columbus. It's already become kind of cool, but I can see it maybe becoming too cool. Some places get a little bit too cool. So I don't know if Columbus will be heading that way, but they're doing some good things with some of the manufacturing there, some of that new robotic and AI manufacturing is pretty cool. David, what YouTube channels do I watch? Mostly stuff is not geography, honestly. I like some of the channels similar to this one, but mostly what I watch is stuff to do with video games or cars. I mean, that's, other interests or music. Sebastian, no, that's going to be in August. So I'll do a big video report and all that stuff on that after I finish. Yeah, I like Doug DeMuro. I like the I'm not big on the guys that I just bought this 5-year-old Ferrari from a junkyard and I'm going to go race it like crazy on the streets. I'm not into those. I'm more into this kind of weird history of cars and the people that, I don't know, old men like me that are into old cars. All right. Young Banana. Yep. Yes, this is geography. All right. So, Alex, I will do some more Canadian stuff. I don't do this channel to chase the views, but at the same time, when I do post a video on Canada, the view count is significantly lower. It's not going to stop me from doing videos on Canada, but I'm not going to do as many when, with 40 million people in Canada, 330 million in the US. Obviously, just the numbers, there's going to be more interest. But I do like talking about Canada. I've never driven an electric car. I think it'd be weird. I figured, I'll eventually get one, but yeah, that would just be weird. The sound, that'd be so weird just to floor it and not get a sound. State for the worst air quality. I don't know about overall state, but where I grew up in California is awful. That's the San Joaquin Valley in California. The air pollution is disgusting. Just disgusting. Alex, yeah, I do. I'm into city planning. I do watch City Beautiful. I should have mentioned that as one that I watch. Yeah, I'm into like nerdy kind of stuff. So, like Doug DeMuro was a nerdy kind of car channel. And so I'm just nerdy stuff no matter what it is. But, all right. So one more question. I'm going to get one more and I got to go. All right. Well, real quick, when this isn't geography, but I like Breath of the Wild is my favorite game. But I'll ask you guys a question. If you're in Indiana or Ohio, have you gotten cicadas yet? That's crazy. Yes, engineering explained is another one. All right, John B. I like your question. That's gonna be the last one I answer tonight. The best accent in the country, and yeah, I like accents. I love driving around and just hearing the way people speak in different parts of the country. I'm always shocked that Oklahoma people there don't really have an accent. You would kind of expect half Southern twang, half Midwestern nasal, but it's just flat. But I like the Michigan accent. I think it sounds really cute. It's gonna be kind of weird to hear somebody from Michigan yelling like mean. It just sounds kind of funny. Oh, do you? Yeah, that was terrible. I like the coastal Southern accents. The Appalachian Southern accents, I think, are kind of rough. I like the ones that sound a little more like this, and not so much the ones that sound like this. So. I think the worst accent, I think it is probably that Boston, Massachusetts accent. It hurts to hear that one sometimes, but if you watch a lot of videos where you can kind of tell when I just came back from California, because I'll have kind of a California type accent, and you can tell the ones that I've made when I've been in Tennessee for a long time. It's been a long time since I've been back out there. because yeah, it's pretty fun. If you watch the video about me ranking the welcome signs, that's where I sound like a total just California airhead. I just had gotten back from the state before I did that. All right, guys. 10:15. I love doing this, but I got to cut it short. So I really do appreciate all the support, all the questions. Again, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 5-way GeoGuessr Battle Royal on Mr. Beach channel. Spaghetti Road, Contiguous. I'm not sure who all is going to be on this, but we'll put out a reminder for it tomorrow. So again, I'll be on another road trip next week, so I'll put some information about that. I'll probably try to get some footage from the trip and post it. I'm not sure if I'll do the shorts thing, or I don't know. We'll see. But I want to get some information or some stuff up about this road trip and the places I'll be. So again, guys, thanks a lot very much. I really do appreciate all the support, and I will see you guys the next time I do one of these. Thanks a lot.